Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with...
Hello again.
Hello.
We are still Diamonds.
I'm Shell.
And I'm Kat.
And we're back.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, we're going to start with a quote.
Yeah.
Tell you a little bit about our topic. No relationship is all sunshine, but two people can share one umbrella and survive the storm together.
I love that. Two people can share an umbrella.
Under my umbrella.
Little Rihanna.
But anyway, that brings us to our topic of today. We're going to do a drum roll.
I was ready.
Michelle.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yo, so I feel like I'm like not energy. I need my energy there.
Get that energy.
Okay, so I guess today we're talking about relationships, right?
Yes, we are. Relationships.
Yes. So I guess starting off, we should put out a disclaimer here. We are in no way, shape, or form a therapist.
We are not.
That is not in our resume, and we don't profess for it to be. However, I will say that we are women who have had our own experiences in regards to relationships, right?
Yes, throughout our lives, we've all had experiences with relationships.
And so we're just giving our 2 cents on the subject and take it or leave it.
Yep, and these are our opinions. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Just remember that.
Right? So I guess a good start into this would be, a definition of relationship, right? So relationship is the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. Yeah, I like that. I was like, well, there's the definition right there, right? So in saying that, I think that when we're talking about relationships, it's beyond just, we're going together or whatever. It's how you're relating to one another.
Right. Just, any relationship, I guess, generally, because, there's all types of relationships nowadays.
There are several.
Yes.
Several relationships, and which makes this such a broad topic that, I feel like our thoughts are just as valid as the next because of that, because it's so broad.
Right. And it's that connection between people that makes up the relationship. So we're all looking at connection.
So I guess to first off, because you don't start off with somebody, right? You start off by yourself. So I guess the first thing we should delve into is being singleness, right?
Right.
And I can say that for me, I will personally speak on this myself. There was a period of time, I think about 5 years, after my first relationship that went a whole different way. We're not even going to get into that right now. But I was single for 5 years after that. Didn't talk to nobody, didn't want nobody looking at me. I didn't want no man to tell me I was pretty. Just leave me alone, right? And in that 5-year framework, I would say that I was able to really focus on, Michelle and, what she wanted out of life. I was focused on my career. Really, at that time, I was really heavy into the art scene. So I was really, I was working with Tulsa Opera. I was just doing a lot of things, holding recitals and things like that, building my own space, right? How was it for you, Kat?
Well, singleness, and I'm going to take it way back, because I remember way, way, way back when kids was in elementary school. When you're around 7, 8, you start to notice more of the opposite sex.
Right.
And I remember those days where kids used to be like, oh, that's my boyfriend, that's my girlfriend, just innocently enough. And like, even sometimes my son, or like, his interests right now are like, getting towards like, oh, I have a crush, or, just like exploring what that means. So relationships for me like go way, way, way back to that day, like elementary school. But as I grew older and I actually had like, my first relationship as like maybe a teenager or even into like my 20s, like, I was in a relationship for, a while with one person. And I just remember like, I was still young. I was still determining like who I was, who I wanted to be, who I wanted to be in life. Things like that. Like I was so immature. I didn't know a lot about like, careers and children and marriage. And, I just knew I wanted a relationship, and I eventually wanted marriage, but I didn't know how to like look into the person a lot and determine like what type of person I wanted to be with. So there was a lot of like unsureness, I guess I would say, when I was first in the dating scene. And I was single, and I was interested in boys and men, and I just didn't know a lot. I can say I was very immature when it comes to relationships. I was maybe like 18, 19 around the time where like I had a serious relationship, and I didn't know what I wanted. So I think a lot comes with maturity and growing in life to determine like who you want as your spouse, who you want as the father of your kids, stuff like that. So I think early in life, my relationships were just very immature, and I didn't know what I really wanted. And I thought I wanted things, but it ended up not being that the case in most times.
I definitely think in being single, meaning, I didn't date at all. It was just, I was allowed to focus on myself. And so I was, that period of time that I mentioned, I was able to really delve into myself and what I wanted to do and be, and where I wanted to go as far as myself. And I think one of the things I'll say is that I think that being single is such an important part of the development and as far as relationship, in relation to where things lead as far as other people, and where you may eventually end up, which maybe marriage. You may not want to get married, I don't know. I think it's important that stage of development is extremely crucial. Like I think singleness, you have to start there. Like, I think in order to, you need to be able to exist in your own company. And I think, like, I'll speak for myself, like, that period of time, and it probably was even longer than that, to be honest. But, like, that period of time, like, allowed me to really, like, enjoy being by myself. Like, I got to a point, like, it's like, hey, I am my own bag of Skittles.
Okay.
I am my own bag of fun. Like, I enjoyed being alone. I enjoyed having my own place. I enjoyed having my own spot to retreat to and not having to account or be accountable to anybody. I could walk in my house and eat what I wanted, and and have have my me time. I loved being single. I'm not even gonna lie. Don't get me wrong, I love being a wife, but I loved also being single. I really valued that time. And so for me, what that looked like for me was, again, like, I got to really blossom within, the friendships that I had. I was able to focus again on my career, and I just was able to be myself and not have the pressure of, of somebody else for me.
Right. And I kind of pick up where I left off with my relationship. I kind of became single in my early 20s to the point where I wasn't with anyone for a few years. I decided that I didn't want to be in a relationship, and I had time to focus on myself. I had time to, during that time, I ended up going back to school. I ended up getting my master's degree. I was 25. I didn't have no significant other. I had my master's degree. My bachelor's degree I already had. I didn't have any kids at the time. You know, I was focusing on me. All my money went to me and whatever needs I needed to pay. I didn't have to worry about, you know, going out on a date or trying to impress anybody. It was just me. I focused on getting myself together. I started exercising a little more. I started going for walks. I started to watch what I was eating. I wasn't responsible for anyone like I am now. You know, as you know, I have a son now. So back then, it was good. Like I found it to be like a good time in my life where I didn't have any responsibilities, where it was just Kat. I had to focus on Kat. And during that time, like I improved myself a lot as far as I lost weight. You know, I had a meal plan going on. I would exercise in my room. It was just a good time for me, like during my singleness, where I would pray about, you know, if like, you know, something I wanted was like marriage. That's something that I always wanted. I wanted marriage and kids. So during that time, I focused on getting myself together in my singleness. So I would pray, I would read books about just like what I wanted. And I knew deep down inside, you know, God knows the desires that I want. So I knew eventually something would happen. I didn't know when. You know, time was ticking. I felt like you know, people always talk about your biological clock, that you want to have this by a certain time, by 30, you know, whatnot. And, you know, I was feeling that pressure from like even my family. Like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? But like at the time, I was satisfied in my singleness. And I knew with that satisfaction, like God was going to provide something even better than I would ever imagine in my life, whether it be like a boyfriend, eventually a husband, a kid, you know. I just had to wait, because during that time in my singleness, God was preparing me, and I was in no way prepared. Like I had a whole attitude. I had to change my way of thinking. I think whenever you're young, like in your 20s, you develop who you are. So my way of thinking changed. Like some of the things that I was maybe disgusted by or didn't think I liked, you know, I changed. That it developed into, you know, the person I am today. Like I don't think during my early 20s, I was in no way ready for marriage, for kids. Like I think if it would have been like a whole mess if I would have got married back in the day to like another person. Like that would have been the wrong thing to do. And sometimes I look at my younger self and I laugh, because I'm like, why were you thinking like that? Like, that's so young or immature of you to be thinking that way.
I will definitely say this for anybody that's out there listening. I will definitely say this. Being single does not mean loneliness. Like, I think we should really like just put that out there. I was single, but I was not lonely. Like I thoroughly enjoyed, because I felt complete by myself. I felt whole by myself. Like I didn't need, you know, any outside validation. So when somebody says, "Oh, I'm single," don't mistake that for loneliness, because could be no further from the truth. You know what I'm saying? You can be single and whole and complete by yourself and not be lonely at all. Like I said, that's not to say that you might not have crossed your mind, like she was saying about talking about relationships or whatever. I'll speak for myself. In that period of time, I was not thinking about somebody else and wanting to be a wife and all of that. That was not my focus at all. My focus was on Michelle. My focus was on Shell, building Shell up. And so I will say what kind of transition, which brings us, you know, into the whole aspect of dating. What changed for me was my 30th birthday. So I'm at home, and I have a cupcake in front of me with a candle on it. And I am drinking a makeshift mimosa. And it's dark, and I'm in the house by myself. And my 30th birthday is what changed my mind. Like prior to that, I was like, you know, I'm all about me. I'm cool. I'm good. But something hit me, and it's like, I don't want to go through this life alone. And so my prayer was, in the midst of this cupcake and makeshift mimosa, my prayer was that God would present me to my husband. Not that I would find my husband, that was not the prayer. My prayer was that I would be presented to my husband and that I would know him. Like when I was presented to him, I would know him. And that he would be all the things: a protector, a provider, a prayer warrior. He would be all of these things for me, and I would know it. And I didn't meet him at my 30th birthday, but that was the prayer that I made. And I noticed the shift for me that happened after that prayer was that I started dating with the intention of being a wife. Oh, that just gave me shivers. That was really, that was a shift for me, because prior to that, and even after, I say a little bit after that, I maybe had the mindset, I didn't really date with that intent. It was just date. I was just seeing what was out there. But after that prayer, after that night, and it wasn't right away, but as time went on, I started dating. I started having the intention of being a wife. So I started making sure that everything was in alignment, and I was making sure that I presented myself as a potential wife for whenever my king presented himself to me. I wanted him to know me up front. And how blessings work, it just happened that short 2 or 3 years after that, I met my husband. But prior to that, I would say that was, and one thing I noticed about in that space of dating is that the knuckleheads that originally came at me, they left me alone. They did not. After that, I'm telling y'all, after that prayer, they didn't. Not saying a couple didn't get in there, but for the most part, they passed me over. So what was it like dating for you before you met your husband? How was it like to date?
Well, actually, for me, I didn't quite date much. I had a long-term relationship when I was in my early 20s. After that, I didn't date any. I was probably single for, completely single, didn't date anyone. From the time I was, 20, I want to say, 24 to I actually got in touch with my husband. And he actually did find me as well. And it's a funny story because he kind of he wrote me online, and I kind of ignored him. We were basically talking back and forth online, and I was okay with that. I didn't want to have any phone conversations because I'm not really that type of person. I'm a shy person. I don't want to have a phone conversation. What am I going to say? That type of thing. So eventually he wrote me and he's asking for my phone number. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this online thing. We're going to email back and forth or whatnot, talk to each other. But actually asking for my phone number, and it was an out-of-state phone number. So I'm like, you say you're in Pennsylvania, but
where are you calling from?
Right, where you calling from? And he still has that number till this day. So he is local. But anyway, so he's asking for a number. I ignored that text or that email, I should say, for maybe a week. I didn't respond back. It was just ghost. I didn't want him to know I was online when I was online. So eventually, I think he sent me his number first, and I was afraid to call the number. I didn't want him to have my number. So eventually I sent him my number, and he was the one to initially reach out and call and text, and that was, the rest was history, basically. Mm-hmm. We started texting back and forth. We had actual phone conversations that lasted for hours, and
I will say
it's a beautiful thing.
Dating wise, and we'll get a little bit further into the whole marriage thing later, but I will say, when you're dating, I think it is important to know why you're dating, what you expect what are your expectations as far as dating, like I said, like we spoke, like our intentions were to be wives. Like we, that, so
100%.
we had that intention already. And so I think I think it's important for you to know what your intentions are. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody wants to be a wife or a husband or, whatever. So, I mean, that's totally at your discretion. But I think that it is important to know what you're looking for so that you don't get hit blindsided, because it will save you a lot of knuckleheads in the meantime.
For sure.
Like, I definitely will say that prior to getting married and all of that, like the dating history, my track record was rough. Okay. You said you didn't date a lot, but I would say that I had, I mingled. I definitely, nothing ever came of any of them, but I definitely dated and was disappointed at every turn. So, I definitely think you should have your intentions and know what you're looking for. What do you say?
Definitely know what you're looking for. And the reason why I didn't date is because, like, I think I knew, like, I wanted marriage. And you can, 9 times out of 10, or like even shorter than that, like you can understand like who a person is just by having a conversation with them.
In a conversation, I agree.
Right. So like a lot of people were like cut off from the get-go. So I'm like, I'm not even want to waste my time on this. Like I'm an educated Black woman. I have goals in life. I want to, be something. I have a serious job. Like I can't go out with somebody who's like smoking or drinking, all illegal drugs. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of something, but like, I can't be seen with somebody like that. Somebody who's not going anywhere in life. Like you have to have equally yoked is what they call it. Like you have to be like-minded. You have to have goals. Like
yes.
You have to be yoked equally.
That is so true.
So when I found my husband, and he's such a go-getter. He's like he's a business person. He doesn't sit down, y'all. He keeps thinking, like he keeps going and going, and like an Energizer Bunny. Like he's very business minded.
Where he at?
Right. And he's not off for family, so it's not like he's just off doing whatever. He's doing it for the purpose of supporting his family.
Right.
So like when I found him, like that's who God had for me, and he was like minded as me. Like he wanted kids. Like we had a kid like 1 year after we got married, so. Like, I was like, okay, this is the type of person I want. Like, I want to see my kids. Like, I want to see my kids too, So that's part of the reason why I wasn't like into dating. Because like, you can entertain people, but like you can know from the beginning, like if they're not going to be that one for you.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree with the whole equally yoked. And I will say this, and this is a piece of advice that I wish that I had held on to a little harder than I did. It was from my uncle, and my uncle always told me, he was like, don't date someone that has less than you. And I think he was, and I look at it now at 35. I should have listened to that, because I know in my track record, I dated people that didn't have much to lose. And I had a lot to lose. And especially like at the time when I was really building up my reputation as a vocalist and as an aspiring opera singer and all that good jazz. Like I was getting out there, and like I was building this reputation for myself. And so it mattered who I was around. It mattered who I was linked up with. And
because some people get out there and act a fool. I'm just saying it. They gonna act a fool.
Listen.
I can't be around no fools, y'all. No.
I'm telling you. So that's another piece of advice I thought. Don't get with someone that has less to lose than you, because they'll always take more than they should and will give less, will give way less. And I completely agree with the, being equally yoked. You have to be equal. But I will say on the equally yoked thing, you probably won't even notice that until you'd have met someone that may potentially really be what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So, but as far as knowing it in a conversation, yeah. Like I went on a date with this guy one time. And we had went on the date. He took me out. We went to, I think it was Red Robin. I think we went out to eat.
Okay.
I had already knew. The thing is, don't let your friends set you up on blind dates either. Don't do it. So I had a friend from work that was like, I have this friend that I think you might really be cool with or whatever. I gave him a shot. We went out to eat. And his whole conversation turned me off. Like, and it wouldn't even, number one, couldn't find out I wasn't really physically attracted to him. But I can let that slide because I'm like, well, I'm trying to really meet someone, you know. And so, anyway, we're proceeding through dinner. I think he ordered like a steak. I forgot what I had. But anyway, we're sitting there eating. And 1 minute I'm thinking, okay, he's asking me some decent questions. Within a period of 5 minutes, that whole conversation turned left. And next thing he's asking me is, oh, you're not a freak, or you a freak, or all of these things. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't present myself to you that way. So already then it was like, it was a wrap. It was done, well done. And so
like that steak.
So you know, so I say all that to say, you know, within a few, you can pick that up off of a conversation.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? If you really paying attention, if you really know what your intentions are, you can hear that in a conversation. You know, whether that's where that's going to go. You know what I'm saying? Which, you know, again, I will say, like, brings us, you dating a while, whatever. You say you meet that one that you think is going to be it, right? Or you got good potential, right? I would say when I met my husband, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think we were even going to click. Like, the date was so quiet. Our first date was so quiet. He didn't really talk. I didn't really talk. I'm sitting here thinking that he maybe we're not really feeling each other. And the whole time he keeps checking his phone. Kind of find out it was my brother-in-law that kept texting because they didn't believe he was really on a date. So needless to say, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I had actually a friend of mine who actually is another part of our family, but I was going to church with her, and we were singing in the Messiah at the time at this church. She was like, she said, she used to always say, oh, you need a man to take care of you. You need a Nigerian man to take care of you. Okay. All this stuff, right? So I was like, no, I'm good. I kept rushing around. I'm like, no, I'm good. I really am good. And every time I saw her, she would keep bringing this up. And then she was like, I have someone for you. And then she told me. And at first off, when she told me his nickname, I was like, nah, bruh. I was like, nah, bruh. I don't know. He sounded young. He sounded immature. This is perception, okay? So I meet him, and I'm like, okay. He calls me, actually. He ended up calling me, and he's talking to me, whatever, and I'm like, okay, nice, whatever. And then the next day he calls. The next day, and then he asked me out. So anyway, that's what led to the first date. And I'm like, this isn't going to go anywhere. So I was like, and I was going to tell her, I was like, well, thanks for trying, but we ain't really. But then something flipped. We ended up back at his house, not to do nothing funny, y'all. I don't want y'all getting the wrong thoughts. But we're sitting there and we're talking. Brother-in-law comes over. And the next 3 hours, we spent talking about everything, life in general, what we wanted out of life, what we wanted for ourselves and for our potentials, whatever. And that conversation changed my whole outlook about that whole date.
Wow.
And then we were dating.
And look at your smile, girl.
Yeah.
You're still smiling about it.
So, I mean, but that was, that was further on. So then, of course, what happens is we end up dating, and of course, we end up getting engaged. So it brings me to the next thing, which was what I was going to ask you. Do you think that dating, not dating, but being engaged, do you consider it still being single?
I would say yes, until those vows are taken at the altar, I would consider it being single because an engagement can still be broken off without any repercussions.
I said the same thing. So, anybody who's out there engaged or whatever, like, congrats. But you're still single. You're still single until you sign that contract, until you are make that commitment before, God and the pastor or the judge, whatever you do, and your family. You're still single. You're still single. And the reason we say that is because, and you see this all the time, people are engaged for umpteen years. I'm exaggerating, but some people do be engaged for a long time. And you be like, girl, well, y'all just gonna tie the knot.
Right. And then some people never do.
And then they end up calling it off.
Right.
So I'll say one thing I think too is, because I say that, engage is a beautiful thing. Like okay, I almost got it in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
I almost got it in the bag. But the thing is, you're still single. And yeah, what do you got to say on that,
Yeah, you're definitely still single. When you're engaged, you have to wait on the official documents, paperwork that makes it legal.
When y'all walking down to the courthouse to fill out that marriage license,
you're
still single.
When you get to your ceremony, you walking down the aisle, you still
single.
When you say those vows,
then you married.
That's when you marry. You in a relationship. That means you got to do a lot more to get out of that relationship. But
right,
I would just say enjoy the singleness. Enjoy your singleness.
Enjoy the dating scene.
Build yourself up.
But again, still know what you're looking for when you're out there.
Absolutely.
Especially today, because everything's instant, right?
Right.
I mean, you got Instagram. You don't even have to they can hit you up in their DMs.
You get a video message, video chat, whatnot.
I mean, all the dating apps out there now.
Meet in person. You can be on video with
people.
Somebody.
Aren't just going to libraries now and meeting them. I feel really lucky and blessed that, I had that experience, because I'll say when I was dating, I did try the dating apps. It didn't work for me at all. You hear me? So I'm actually really glad that I got to meet my husband the way I did. But, nowadays, like I said, you don't have to do that, and everything's instant. People want it right now. They don't want to really wait for it.
Right. And mine is actually the opposite, because me and my husband, we talked online before we actually met in person. And my family was skeptical. Shoot, I was even skeptical. I didn't know who this person was. He told me his name was so-and-so, which ended up not being his real name, his government name, I should say. So I'm like, okay. So when I went on my first date with him, I had to tell somebody. I told my parents, just to be on the lookout, I'm going with this guy. We ended up going to the movies. We went to the mall. We went in Victoria's Secret. He bought me all these colognes and sprays from there. We had a good old time. And I just remember going back home, and we would talk every day, to the point where some people around me were noticing, and they're like, make them miss you, make them, do all this stuff. We would talk every day, go out after he got off of work, after I got off work, whatnot. So we had quite an experience, and I can account for the world where everybody's meeting online, because that's where me and my husband first connected. And look here, people didn't think it was going to last. They thought, oh, it'll maybe last a year or two, the statistics and whatnot. But
give them that number, girl.
Girl, we will celebrate our 8th anniversary, 8 years married, and we met online. We have one son together, and it's still going strong. I love my husband. I love my husband. And don't get me wrong, there are some times where you want to choke somebody, you want.
That's being a partner though, too.
That's a part of it. That's a part of being in a relationship. There's going to be some times where you don't like each other. There's going to be some times where you want to just, choke somebody. Not literally. I'm just playing, y'all. But there's going to be some of those times. But those times are what builds you up. That's what makes you better.
And they're fleeting. They're fleeting. They come as quick as they go.
I couldn't imagine myself with anybody else but my husband. And there were so many haters, so many doubters saying, "Oh, it's not gonna last." But look at us now. We almost 8 years in.
Here she goes. I will say, being engaged to, Which brings me to talking about engagement. Like, one thing I want to talk about as far as engagement is a time frame. Don't let nobody tell you what time frame or how long you should be engaged or even how long you should date. I'll say that we, by most standards, probably say that we marry quickly.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But also I will say this, our husbands are from a different culture. Where, they aren't into that whole 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 year engagement thing.
What I always hear from their culture is, why wait?
Right.
Why wait when, that's who you want to marry, that's who you want to be with. Mm-hmm. Why wait?
Why wait? Yeah, so, we are, and so I'll say I'm a proponent of don't take forever to get married. Either you're going to do it or you're not. But right. Then again, too, it also has its drawbacks, I guess, that when you get married quickly, you are still getting to know that person.
Right.
So...
but you can grow in love. Grow in love is also something that I hear a
grow
lot.
In pains, too.
Right, grow in pain, grow in love, grow with it all. Like, get to know each other as you grow. Like, that's something that also, like, brings that connection. Because in the beginning, we were talking about connection. That's what a relationship is. You have to build a connection with someone in order to, get to know them.
Mm-hmm. And you're constantly relating. Don't think that because you make it to marriage that it just, okay, it's in the bag, we're good, we're done.
It takes a lot. It's a lot of work.
It's a lifetime.
And sometimes people have different personalities. Sometimes people have not matured enough to understand, it's going to take work.
Right.
So you have to, be at a point in your life where you've taken care of yourself, yourself, you've built yourself up.
Right.
In your singleness to the point where when you get married, you're ready for that. Because if you're not ready for marriage when you get to that point in time, it's just going to be a disaster.
Right.
You're going to think, oh, it's them, or it's me. Like, when things go wrong, when in reality you weren't ready.
Right.
You weren't ready for that.
And I will say, because marriage is a commitment, marriage is a contract, a legally binding contract, and not even just from man's perspective it being legal. You're making a covenant between you, that person, and God, or you, that person, and Allah, or whoever you, or if you believe in anything. You know what I'm saying? It's a bonding pact.
Right.
Okay, that is not. It should not easily be broken. I think there's a movie called Not Easily Broken, and I think that's true. The CDC actually is saying that that marriages and divorces are unfortunately both on the decline. Well, great thing for divorces because people, marriage-wise, is on the decline, but people are waiting till they're older to get married, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think it's wise to wait. Nothing wrong with getting married early if you're ready, if you're ready to have a family. But I think, more people getting married older, it's definitely a better.
They're more patient with themselves. They're more, so that I think they're more.
You know who you are when you're older. Mm-hmm. At least for me, I know that.
Right. I will say marriage is a beautiful thing. I'm about to be 3 years in now. Okay. And, my husband makes me smile. So I'm always, I'm crazy about my husband. But, I said that before, like, we unashamedly are in love with our husbands. Mm-hmm. I will say that, though, don't take it lightly. Marriage is work. It is work.
It's hard.
And I feel like it's even, I don't know if you would agree, but I would say it's even more work when you are from two different cultures, two different backgrounds.
I agree. It is more work because you're learning each other, you're learning each other's culture. They didn't grow up the way we grew up.
Not at all.
So, it's going to be a challenge. Like, you have to learn and understand that, and understand that, like, their opinion, the way they grew up, it's not going to be the same way you think. You have to come somewhere in the middle, right, in agreement, so that you can get along. Like, it's not going to be the same. What you expected, like, from the time you were younger, and, some people dream of their weddings when they were younger, how it's going to be. It may not be that same thing when you get to the point where you actually get married, especially when you come from a different culture. Right. They have different beliefs, they have different customs, they have different food, they have different, outfits, clothes, like native wear, whatnot. Mm-hmm. Like, our husbands are from completely different places. I have to understand that when I'm raising my kids specifically, that I'm trying to raise my son the way, I was raised, and how, somebody beat my butt when I was little. I'm trying to beat his little tail if he do something wrong. But like, even in his culture, that's the same there, but like, it was different too. Like, back home, they always tell me like they're more, with my husband's culture, that they're into culture more, their names have meanings, like things like that. Like, my son has a native name that his father gave him, and like, I like that. I'm incorporating my life with him and also his culture with him, and I have to be mindful that like I can't have it all my way.
Right.
And it's not going to be the same, and that's okay. And when you get to that point and you understand that, like, that avoids arguments, that avoids like even divorce sometimes. Like, you have to come to an agreement and understanding that it's not always going to be you. Even though they may be here in this country, they still have a culture. They still have a background. So when you come to that understanding, definitely makes it worth it. Like, you say, oh, okay, well, I understand. If you're never going to understand, that's when marriages fail,
Right. And I definitely agree, because like she said, our husbands are from a different culture. I don't know why are we hiding that? Like, I think we're gonna just
no.
They're Nigerian. Our husbands are Nigerian. We are Nigel wives.
Right. We are Nigel wives.
We are Nigel wives. So,
and I'm proud of that. There's nothing wrong with
much.
that. I think there's like a stigma that comes along with like Nigerians in America, that they're only here for, certain things, as far as like they want their papers, this, that, and the other.
And it couldn't be further. I mean, not saying that doesn't happen.
It does happen in certain instances. Like, that's very true. But you just have to be mindful and like use your own judgment with that. Like I said, I've been married 8 years almost, and I have a 7-year-old son. Like, no matter what, like, we're going to be connected by my son anyway. But like, our marriage is strong.
Yeah. And I think too, and not saying that, I am a proponent of loving who you love from different cultures or whatever. Just being mindful that, in a marriage, that two people, whether you're from different cultures or not, two people that have different backgrounds, different beliefs, probably, maybe, different opinions about things, are coming together, and you are becoming one. But even in becoming one, you are still individuals, and those individuals are going to have differences that you have to compromise on, and that is the work of marriage.
It's work. And one thing that you just said that kind of made me think is like different opinions. That's the main thing that I think fails a lot of people, like, as far as in different cultures. Like, we don't have a lot of arguments with our husbands about it, but I can understand, like, somebody is having a different opinion than their husband, that can lead to argument, which may lead to, down the line, like, people ending a relationship.
Right.
Like, you have to be open-minded.
All over miscommunication half the time.
Exactly.
Like, I'll say, like, when we first got married, a lot of our communication was miscommunication. And granted, like, that just takes, because again, you're still getting to know this person, you're still getting to know what they're about, who they are, and vice versa,
their culture.
So I mean, just be mindful that communicate.
Yeah,
and that never ends.
It doesn't. It never ends. Like, you have to communicate. You have to be open.
Yeah. So I guess we're pretty much at the end of this. But again, just to kind of wrap up what we're saying, our final thoughts is that, marriage, before you get to marriage, there's a whole road that you should take before you ever get to marriage. And again, to me, like, definitely know yourself by yourself, be content by yourself, know who you are by yourself. When you start dating, know why you're dating. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's to have an intention, date with intentions, whatever those intentions may be. And when you get married, also know that is not the end of the road. There's work.
Right.
It is work for a lifetime, because it's every day you are spending with this person. You're choosing to wake up next to this person. You're choosing to build a life, build whatever you're building with that person. And it's never going to always be rainbows and unicorns. So it's going to be, up and down sometime. And,
For sure.
Yeah, and it's work. So
yeah, relationships are hard. It requires work between two people, not just one person. Two people have to work together to understand each other.
Right.
So definitely understand from the very beginning when you learn about relationships in childhood and as you grow into adulthood, teenage years, and your 20s, everything that's around you shapes the way you see relationships. Whether it's like seeing other people like your grandparents, your parents that are in a relationship, that shapes you. So definitely have to work in relationship.
Again, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
If you want to let us know your thoughts, you can always shoot us an email at stilldiamondspodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on Instagram at Still Diamonds Podcast. Also on Facebook by the same Still Diamonds Podcast. Also,
my personal Instagram is #2 love more MOORE,
and mine is Soprano Love 28. And again, I guess I'll leave you with this quote. It's from Paulo Coelho from The Alchemist. It says, "So I love you because the entire universe conspired to help me find you."
Wow.
All right.
Thanks
See ya.
again for watching.
Thanks for sipping with us, girls.
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with